The figures before me were grotesque. Not the world leaders I expected, but something far worse. His body, the massive shifting form of it, twisted and bubbled like molten wax. My mind strained, recoiling at the sight, yet I couldn't look away. Beside him stood the lawyer. Her charcoal pencil skirt and sharp heels seemed mundane enough, but the way she moved, the clicking of her heels, the tapping of her pen was unnerving, almost mechanical. Her face, framed by the harsh glow of an ethereal blue light, looked pinched and sour, as if carved from stone. She adjusted her glasses with the tip of her pen, her expression colder than I remembered. "So," she said, her voice sharp and cutting, like a blade scraping against bone. She tapped her clipboard with deliberate impatience. "The kidnappers are here." "Kidnappers?" I echoed, the word foreign and jagged in my mouth. "What on earth are you talking about?" "Not on Earth," she hissed. "Another world." "And you know exactly what I mean." "I really don't," I stammered. The air seemed thicker, harder to breathe. She sighed, a sound that was less exasperation and more a hiss of steam from something boiling over. "Do you know what the punishment for kidnapping in the Netherworld is?" She asked, her words slow and deliberate, each one a shard of glass. "I didn't kidnap anybody," I protested, my voice trembling. She opened her mouth to respond, but a sound heavy, uneven footsteps echoed from the darkness behind her. Frank and Teddy emerged, panting heavily, their forms distorted by the dim, flickering light. Annie followed close behind, her wide eyes darting nervously. "It's a trap," Frank and Teddy gasped. "Do not listen to her." The lawyer's nose wrinkled, her expression one of pure disdain, as if their presence were an insult. "Of course it's a trap," she said smoothly. "But you're already here. That knowledge doesn't help you now, does it?" I felt the weight of their gazes, the suffocating silence, and finally snapped. "Can somebody please tell me what's going on? I've just arrived, and I'm already accused of kidnapping, yet no one seems to think I deserve an explanation." The lawyer's eyes glinted dangerously. "Don't play dumb with me," she spat. "If you didn't take Sarah, then who did?" "What do you mean, who did?" I retorted. "You did." "Yes," she said, her voice sharp as a knife. "But after that, someone unauthorized removed her from Netherworld daycare." "What?" I stammered. "First, you steal my daughter, and now you lose her? Are you kidding me?" The lawyer's face tightened, but before she could respond, Frank and Teddy spoke again, their voice strange and distant. "I know what's going on." We all turned to him, his large, furry frame oddly imposing in the dimness. "Your head is full of stuff," I said hesitantly. "Yes," he replied, "stuff that makes me wise." But the lawyer interrupted. "This is pointless," she snapped. "Someone has kidnapped the princess, and until she's found, there will be no coronation." "Coronation?" I repeated. "What the hell are you talking about?" Frank and Teddy cleared their throat or something like it. "Sarah has escaped," he said, his voice a rumble that seemed to vibrate through the very air. "Escaped?" The lawyer's voice cracked, her composure slipping. "How?" "Through the ways of satanic magic," Frank and Teddy said. "She opened a portal, back to Earth." For a moment, silence hung thick in the air. Then, slowly, horribly, the realization settled in. While we had been trapped here, circling the abyss of this cursed realm, Sarah had found her own way out alone. And she had left us to the dark. "Why wouldn't she come directly to me?" I demanded. "She wanted to stop at Disneyland first," Frank and Teddy replied casually. "Wait!" snapped Miss Hatchetface, her eyes narrowing. "You're telling me Sarah was already back on Earth before we even came down here?" "Yes," Frank and Teddy said, their voice disturbingly nonchalant. "And you knew about it?" "Of course," Frank and Teddy replied with a shrug. "Sarah's bonded with me. I am always aware of her location." "So why didn't you say anything?" Frank and Teddy's massive shoulders heaved in what might have been a shrug. "You all seemed very excited to come down to the Netherworld," they said. I didn't want to ruin your vacation. Excited? I repeated, incredulous. They were terrified. Is terror not one of the many varieties of excitement? Frank and Teddy asked, their unblinking eyes fixed on me. No, I mean, yes, but I sighed heavily. Just forget it. Larry was shaking his head, his face pale. So I came down here with you lunatics for nothing, he muttered. Fantastic. Does anybody have a portal home? Hold on a moment, the lawyer interjected, her voice slicing through the air like a knife. What makes you think you're going home? Well, Larry said, his tone flat, you can either let us go or throw all of us in prison. But I don't think the latter would make for a very interesting plot. What? The air suddenly rippled, an unnatural vibration that made my teeth ache. A guttural roar erupted, shaking the very fabric of reality. The lawyer looked up, her face a mask of thinly veiled annoyance. Ah, she said dryly. His next phase, perfect. The ground beneath us trembled as cracks snaked outward, pieces of it breaking free and floating as though gravity itself had given up. The swirling air thickened, alive with a monstrous cacophony that clawed at my ears. Hisnek, the grotesque ruler of this cursed realm, began to take shape, his massive form twisting and shrinking into a spiraling void. Fine, the lawyer said, her voice strained but steady. Hisnek decrees you all can go, including you, Annie, but only on the condition that Sarah returns to the Netherworld and fulfills her responsibilities as princess. Deal, Frank and Teddy said cheerfully. She's at Disneyland. Should we go get her for you? Hold on a second, I interjected. I didn't agree to this. Hisnek will go himself, the lawyer said icily. Clearly, none of you can be trusted to accomplish anything. The swirling air tightened, pulling inward as Hisnek's grotesque form twisted into a singularity, shrinking until it vanished with a sharp, unsettling pop. Larry glanced around, his face pale. So, is there a portal out of here or not? Yeah, Annie said, her voice unusually chipper. Follow me. We resurfaced in the walk-in cooler of May's Chinese buffet, startling a waiter reaching for a pot of egg drop soup. The cold, fluorescent light was disorienting after the hellish darkness of the Netherworld. Sorry, Annie said brusquely, shoving the waiter aside as she pushed open the refrigerator door. But we've got business to handle. We spilled into the kitchen, weaving past confused staff until we burst out the back door. Two waiters on a smoke break jumped, their cigarettes tumbling to the ground. So, Annie said, turning to face us. I guess this is where I leave you guys. Sorry about your daughter, Darren, but it's really the best thing for everyone involved. The best thing? I snarled. The best thing would be if you stuck your head up. Whoa, Darren, Frank and Teddy interrupted, their voice smooth and strangely calm. Just let it go. She's right, Annie added, her tone dripping with mock sincerity. She, Frank and Teddy said, leaning in close to me and winking with one glossy eye. Just let it go. My hands clenched into fists, but I turned away from Annie, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. Get out of my sight, I hissed. I never want to see you again. Annie smirked, gave a little wave and vanished into the night, leaving me with nothing but anger and the haunting certainty that this was far from over. I'm sorry you feel that way right now, Annie said, her voice unnervingly calm. Maybe later you'll change your mind. Yeah, right, I shot back. When pigs fly. Pigs do fly in the Netherworld, she said with a smirk. But fine, have it your way. Her image shimmered, flickering like a mirage on a sweltering highway, then vanished with a faint pop, leaving the air cold and heavy. Unbelievable, I muttered, shaking my head. I turned to Same. Hey Same, what was that wink about? Oh, don't you worry about that, Pablo, he said with a sly grin. I've got a secret plan. Oh God, not again, Miss Hatchetface groaned. Have you already forgotten how your last plan turned out? There was no last plan, Same said, his grin widening. It's the same plan as before. It's still in motion. So wasting our time in the Netherworld was part of your master plan? She asked, her tone dripping with sarcasm. It sure was, Same said, throwing her a deliberate wink. Please don't wink at me, she snapped, her voice cold enough to cut glass. Does this plan involve me in any way? Larry asked, eyeing Same with suspicion. Not anymore, Same replied. Good, Larry said, turning on his heel. I'm going back to the goat dimension. You'll get my bill in the mail with idiot tax included. You're gonna call it a genius tax when my plan pans out, Same called after him. Larry muttered, vanishing into the shadows. I'm sure. I turned back to Same. So what's this secret plan of yours? He grinned like a wolf who had just cornered its prey. If I told you, Reggie, it wouldn't be a secret anymore. Let's go to Disneyland. Not to be a buzzkill, Miss Hatchetface interjected, her voice as sharp as ever, but by now his neck's probably already there. How are we supposed to get there in time to do anything? Same scratched his goatee, a glint of mischief in his eyes. Looks like we've been written into a corner. What? I asked. Nothing, he said. I'm the devil for hell's sake. You think I can't get us there right away? Last time you drove, I reminded him. That was a disaster. That was a family road trip, Same said, waving it off. It was for fun. I had a concussion, I snapped. How is that supposed to be fun? Concussions are a blast once you get used to them, he said, smirking. Wait, I said, narrowing my eyes. Is that why you can't remember my name? I don't know what you're talking about, Jerry. Same replied with a wink. Now come on, let's go to Disneyland. With a snap of his fingers, a gate of writhing purple flames erupted from the ground, casting sinister shadows across the walls. Pretty cool, huh? Same said, clearly proud. I invented these. No, you didn't, Miss Hatchetface deadpanned. Shush, Same said, leaning close to me. Jerry doesn't know that. He patted my shoulder, his touch icy. There's a secret to these gates, so listen up. You've got to close your eyes and concentrate really hard on where you're going, or the hellfire will burn you to a crisp. You're joking, I said, stepping back. Maybe, Same said, grinning. Then, without warning, he shoved me into the flames. The journey through the portal was a nightmare. It felt like being sucked through a straw, but worse, my hands ballooned into grotesque sausage-like shapes, and my left foot grew to the size of a textbook while the right shrank to that of a mousetrap. A beard sprouted on my face, turned gray, fell off and regrew, now bright pink. And then I saw it, a massive vertical wall rushing toward me. Too late, I realized it was a sidewalk and I was falling. I hit the ground face first, pain erupting in my nose as blood splattered everywhere. Dazed, I pushed myself up to see Frank and Teddy, Same, and Miss Hatchetface waiting for me, completely unscathed. Geez, what took you so long, Jerry? Same asked, his tone casual. Did you get lost or something? I wiped the blood off my nose with the back of my hand, smearing crimson across my face, then rubbed my hands on my pants. Is it broken? I asked. Same tilted his head, examining me with an unnerving grin. Looks like it. But I like it better this way. It gives you a rugged sort of vibe, like a boxer or a homeless guy. I gingerly touched my nose, and pain exploded through my forehead like a thunderclap. Can you fix it? I asked, my voice strained. Of course I can, Same said, stepping closer. I was actually talking to Miss Hatchetface, I said, backing away. Nonsense. Same waved me off and seized my face with both hands, his claws cold against my skin. I have a medical degree. For humans? I managed to ask as his fingers pressed into my cheeks. Let's not worry about the little things, he replied with a sinister chuckle. Before I could protest, he stepped back, snapped his fingers, and dwaba mwada. A sensation like a cast-iron skillet slamming into my face sent me staggering. Oh no, Same muttered, his voice dripping with mock concern. That doesn't look good at all. What? I demanded. What did you do to my nose? See for yourself, he said, snapping his fingers again. A mirror materialized out of thin air, hovering inches from my face. I braced myself for the worst and peered into it. To my surprise, my nose looked exactly the same. I don't get it, I said, turning the mirror this way and that. It's just my nose. Exactly, Same said, cackling. You're a jerk, I muttered, tossing the mirror. It vanished midair with another snap of his fingers before it could hit the ground. I like your nose, Miss Hatchetface said, her voice uncharacteristically soft. It's distinctive. What a diplomatic way to put it, Same said, his grin stretching impossibly wide. Now let's go. This is the final phase of my plan, and we've got no time to waste. The gates of Disneyland loomed ahead, shrouded in an eerie gray mist. The ticket booth was manned by Frizz Knoll, the giant blue diamond-shaped demon with an axe lodged in his forehead. Oh hey Frizzle, I said, trying to mask my unease. Good to see you again. Frizz flared his cavernous nostrils, exhaling a gust of icy wind. He pointed a jagged arm toward the park. His snack's already here, he rumbled. You'd better hurry. I followed his gaze and saw it. A massive rippling fissure tearing through the sky above the park, spilling storm clouds that blanketed the heavens in an endless gray curtain. My chest burned as I sprinted toward the chaos, my heart hammering like a war drum. The ground trembled beneath my feet as Hisnak, the World Eater, let out a deafening roar. I passed panicked families fleeing in the opposite direction, their screams drowned out by the beast's guttural bellows. Ahead, a crowd had gathered, human children and demons alike swaying in unison, their voices raised in a chant I couldn't understand. The air buzzed with a strange energy, thick and suffocating. Suddenly, I felt a sharp yank from behind, and my head slammed into the pavement. Stars burst in my vision as I groaned in pain. Oops, Same said, standing over me, his hooves clicking ominously against the ground. That looked like it hurt. Sorry about that. What the hell is wrong with you? I snapped, struggling to sit up. Lots of things, he replied cheerfully. But that's not important right now, just like you. What are you talking about? I asked, glaring at him. He pressed a hoof to my chest, pinning me down with an unsettling gentleness. Parents aren't needed for this part, he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Only the kids. Oh my God, Miss Hatchetface breathed. You're a genius. Of course I am, Sane said with a manic gleam in his eye. That's why everyone thinks I'm insane. My brilliance is so long-sighted, it doesn't make sense to anyone else. Can someone please explain what's going on? I said, squirming beneath his hoof. And can you take your hoof off my chest? Pro tip, Jordan, Same said with a wink. Only ask for one favor at a time. It's the children, Miss Hatchetface said, her voice grim. They're fighting Hisnak. I shoved Same's hoof off my chest and tried to stand, but the ground beneath us heaved violently, throwing me back down. Above us, the fissure in the sky pulsed, and the chant of the crowd grew louder, a haunting melody that chilled me to my core. I staggered to my feet, rubbing the back of my head. How's that possible? I asked, my voice shaky. They're only kids, Satan replied, his grin sharp as a knife. But don't you see? Kids are special. The Netherworld thrives on hatred, emptiness, and misery. Children, though, they're the antithesis of all that. They're pure, unfiltered joy. They're the greatest natural resource of happiness in existence. I blinked, still trying to make sense of his words. And Disneyland, he continued, his voice reverent, is the perfect conduit for that joy. It's a place where imagination outruns reality, where love and wonder overflow. All that sappy happiness drains Hisnak's power like water through a sieve. Wow, I muttered, still reeling. That's amazing. What are they chanting? Oh, just the theme song from Barney the Purple Dinosaur, Satin said with a smirk. Oh, I said, that's fitting, I guess. Another earth-shaking roar tore through the air, cutting me off. The fissure in the sky yawned wider, an impossibly vast, gaping void. Lightning bolts ripped through the heavens, and the wind surged into a howling maelstrom. Hisnak's massive, grotesque head began to warp, stretching unnaturally toward the fissure as if pulled by some unseen force. Slowly, agonizingly, the beast was sucked into the darkness. Finally, with a deafening clap of thunder, Hisnak vanished, swallowed whole by the void. "Huh," I said, scratching my head. "Huh," Satan snapped, his grin faltering. "I just saved your world from being devoured, and all you've got is a huh?" No, it's great," I said quickly. "It's just, after everything that's happened, it feels a little anticlimactic, you know." Satan raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you were hoping for a big final battle, weren't you?" His voice took on a teasing edge. "We can spin it back up, let Hisnak out for round 2. You can duke it out with him, but if you lose, well..." His grin turned razor sharp. "Say goodbye to your world." "No, that's okay," I said hastily. "This ending's fine, really." Satan chuckled darkly. "That's what I thought." "I should go find Sarah," I muttered, glancing around. "No need," Satan said, pointing. "Here she comes now." I squinted into the distance, but instead of my daughter, I saw something enormous lumbering toward me. It was a reptilian demon, grotesque and hulking, covered in jagged spines. Its leathery, dark red skin stretched taut over its deformed body, wrinkling like the remnants of something long dead. The creature's head was a nightmare, an ugly, warped mass of flesh with 2 milky, unblinking eyes bobbing on stalks. At the very top, impossibly balanced, was No. "Sarah?" I whispered, my heart dropping into my stomach. The beast lowered its head, and there she was, perched on top like some twisted crown. It set her down gently beside me. "Hi, Dad," Sarah said, her smile as bright and unshaken as ever. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, my voice breaking. I scooped her up and held her close, squeezing her so tightly it hurt. "I missed you," she said, resting her head against my shoulder. "I missed you too," I replied, tears slipping down my face. "Dad," she said after a moment, her voice muffled. "Yes, you're squeezing me to death." "Oh," I loosened my grip reluctantly and set her down. She gave me a sheepish grin. "I really need to pee." "Okay," I said, wiping my face. "So, is the adventure over?" Sarah asked, looking up at me with wide, innocent eyes. "Looks that way," I said, ruffling her hair. "What do we do now?" I thought for a moment, scratching my head. "Let's let Frank and Teddy decide." We turned to the 2 fluffy, towering demons, who exchanged a glance before Frank stepped forward. He stroked his chin thoughtfully, his paw enormous against his face. "Let's ride all the rides," he boomed. I couldn't help but smile, though my chest still felt heavy. "Okay," I said, taking Sarah's hand as the shadows of the Netherworld began to fade into the distance.